take you with them on a bus or train, on a highway or on a plane, backstage or on a bike. It's Kevin Kline's Fuzzy Mike. Fuzzy Mike interviews. Not top of mind, not even the news. No way. Just a bunch of stuff that Kevin likes. All recorded with this Fuzzy Mike. So we'd like to thank you all ahead of time for listening to Fuzzy Mike with your friend Kevin Kline.
It's another episode of the Fuzzy Mike. I am your host, Kevin Kline, and I was looking at the New York Times bestseller list not too long ago, and I was also looking at the most downloaded or most purchased books on Amazon, and I came across this one, and it's written by a writer named Abby Ross. And the name of the book, the title is The Poop Diaries. Now, if you know anything about me, poop and farts, that is the quickest way to my heart. You'd start writing or talking about that. And so I opened it up, the synopsis and everything, and it was quite unlike anything I thought it would be. And so I reached out to Abby Ross, and I have her on the phone right now. Hello, is this Abby?
This is she.
Abby, hi, it's Kevin Kline. How are you?
Hi, Kevin. Fine. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for taking time to speak with me about your incredible book, The Poop Diaries.
Of course. I appreciate, especially considering the climate these days, that you're doing this. Thank you.
I was just going to say, this is basically a conversation that's going to be a respite from everything that's going on in the world with COVID-19, but also a very appropriate time that you and I are talking, because The Poop Diaries are stories from plumbers. And we're hearing right now of all the different things that people are trying to flush down their toilets and everything. Give us a little bit of background on how the Poop Diaries came about.
Sure. So it was just a random weekday night and toilet clogged. And I can't go to bed knowing the toilet won't work. So I called a plumber. And he came over. His name's John. He's chapter 1 in the book. And he was very, very, very chatty. He was also very nice. And so I felt bad just rushing him out. I mean, the whole job only took about 15 minutes. And so I asked him to share his 3 greatest hit stories. And he was so hilarious. I just could not believe the stories that came out of his mouth. And I was like, well, I have to write a book about you. And so that's how it all started. So I interviewed him and did his diaries. And when I was rereading through the diaries, I thought, I think I'm onto something here. And so I set out to find more plumbers all across North America. And that's how the Poop Diaries was born. So
these stories aren't just necessarily from the same city. These are from all across the country.
Yes, that's true. So some of the plumbers are from Chicago. One is from Wisconsin. 2 are actually from Wisconsin. One's from Indiana. I have 2 in Canada. 1 in Oakland, California. And yes, that's pretty much it. And also it's important to point out that not all the stories are from male plumbers. I found 2 female plumbers, which adds a whole different perspective to the book, their stories versus the male plumbers.
One of the things that I read early in the book that struck me as odd is you always hear about delivery drivers, UPS, postal workers, seeing a lot of nudity in their customers. The plumbers actually have them beat?
I think so, because, plumbers are actually going and spending time in people's homes. And for some reason, people kind of view plumbers like they're invisible. Like it doesn't matter what the plumber sees, which is very odd. Maybe it's because, plumbers see kind of the most disgusting parts of our body. So everything else, I guess, doesn't matter as much. But yeah, plumbers especially, and you see in the book, like where a plumber would just go out to his truck to drop off the tools. And when he came back to collect for the bill, the customer was standing there naked. One woman wouldn't get out of bed while the plumber, he was changing out an air conditioner unit. He was kind of like a jack of all trades for this building. And this woman was laying in bed, clutching her covers under her chin, and the air conditioner unit was right above her. And he asked her, is this a good time? And she said, oh, it's fine, it's fine. And he literally had to get in bed with her just to change the air conditioner unit. So yeah, it's really interesting.
While that sounds uncomfortable, it is not the most uncomfortable story in the book. The one where the mom had to call the plumber on behalf of her son who could not function in the shower.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. That story is just completely bizarre. So yeah, the mother called the plumber at like 7 a.m. It was pre-work hours. And she said, please go over to my son's apartment He really needs to get ready for work, and he can't because the shower's broken. And you need to go now. So the plumber went over there, and, the guy, he knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Knocked again. Nobody answered. So he just sort of, like, played with the doorknob a little, and lo and behold, the door was open. And he's like, hello, hello, shouting through the apartment. And he hears this echoey, I'm back here. And so he walks through the house, and sure enough, in the bathroom, the guy was actually taking a shower using the broken shower. And the plumber was like, dude, you got to get out of the shower for me to fix the drain. And the guy refused to get out of the shower. So he just took the shower curtain and wrapped it around his naked body while the plumber had to go in there and clear the drain.
That is unbelievable. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for some of the stories you're going to read about in the Poop Diaries. Writer and author Abby Ross is our guest. It's a collection of Plumber's greatest hits. But now there are some dangers, inherent dangers to the job of being a plumber. And you learned about some of these, right?
I did, yeah. I mean, so one of the plumbers interviewed, it was actually, thank God it didn't happen to him, but it did happen to a colleague. So they were doing some city work and doing underground work on the pipes. And his colleague hammered through an electrical vault, and the thing blew up, and his colleague actually lost his eye. So it does get into some. I wanted to have a mix of humor, gross, kindness. Some of the stories show kindness, the realities, the danger. I wanted a mix of all kinds of stories, so the book wasn't only about poop.
You said the word gross. Abby, have you ever seen somebody live in person reading your book and seen the reaction on their face when they get to a couple of these stories? Because the way you wrote one of these stories literally made me dry heave. I was gagging.
Well, that's not surprising. I was dry heaving while writing it, while listening to the plumber share it with me. I have not had that experience. I will say I can't wait for the day that happens. I dream of the day when I'm on the bus or on the train and I see someone reading my book.
This is the story that it tells me the next time that I'm in Chicago, I will not be eating at a Chinese restaurant. You know what story I'm talking about. That
of course
thing,
I do.
Unbelievable
Yeah.
story.
Well, I hope that restaurant is shut down, but
it might be based on your book. It should be.
Restaurant. Yeah, yes. That story, the plumber went to a Chinese restaurant in the city, and the woman, very quietly led him through the dining room as people were eating and led him downstairs. And the basement was just covered in rat poop. And naturally, the plumber is actually very afraid of rats. That's his biggest fear. And so he got really nervous, and he was like, I don't know why you called me. You should call an exterminator. And in the midst of her showing him around and he's looking for the floor drain, there was one of the servers came down, and he said that they ran out of takeout order containers, those styrofoam boxes, which were in the basement covered in rat poop. And he said he needs more containers. And so the owner of the restaurant just pulled out a pile of containers, just brushed away the rat poop, and handed them to the server.
My eyes are watering right now.
Very disturbing.
I'm dry heaving. My eyes are watering right now. That is absolutely horrific.
And my favorite part about it is that the plumber found the problem, and it was in the sewer line, and he offered to fix it, and she said she didn't want to pay for it, and then she offered to pay him in food.
Of course, he said no, thank you.
Of course, yes. And he never went back there again either.
What I found interesting about your background is that you were a TV news journalist.
I was. When I was in my 20s, I for 6 years, I was a television news reporter. I lived all around the country. And then I transitioned into PR and marketing.
What was the oddest story you had to cover as a reporter?
That's a very good, gosh, it was so long ago, getting old. I would say I don't know. So I did a lot of crime reporting, so a lot of it was disturbing.
Yeah.
I'll say the coolest thing that I did. I interviewed Barack Obama one-on-one when he was a senator in Illinois. And I thought that was really cool to interview. And I actually did ask him if he thought he would be president one day.
What did he
and
say?
He gave me a very political answer of, he's just concerned about the people of Illinois right now and not thinking that far down the future, even though it actually wasn't that much later that he became president. So.
Right. So, but when you were a journalist, did you ever think you'd be writing a book on poop?
No, I actually never expected to be writing a book, period. I mean, I always loved to write. I always loved to storytell. That's why I love PR and marketing, because it's also a form of storytelling. But writing a book takes a lot of time. I have 2 young children. I have a full-time job. So I never really pictured this in my future, but it's almost like the idea just fell on top of my head, and I couldn't escape it.
And it's so rich, too, because there's bound to be more stories out there that you could write sequels to this with other plumbers.
Yes. So at first I thought, maybe we'll have to see what happens. I might write a sequel, but then I have actually another book that I started writing in a similar format. I'm not going to give too much away because it takes like 2 years to write a book, especially when you're a parent.
Sure.
But it's a similar format, different topic though. It's not plumbing, but it's still pretty interesting.
Well, I had some ideas I was going to throw your way, but I'm kind of hesitant to do that now because if I hit one that you're working on, but I was thinking garbage men.
Yeah, that's crossed my mind.
Morticians.
Crossed my mind. Ooh, morticians, good. Add that to my list.
Yeah, add these to your list. I'm not asking for a cut or anything. I'm just thinking about different things that I would want to read about that are fascinating, because when I saw obviously the headline or the title of the book just got me right away, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, what's this about? And then I opened it up, the synopsis on Amazon, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it's something that you would kind of wonder what plumbers have to deal with on a daily basis, but you would never think to ask them. So especially now with what people are trying to flush down toilets with COVID-19 and all that stuff, the one thing that really got me, and we talked about it on our radio show this morning. By the way, I mentioned the book in Houston on the radio show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
People are flushing sex toys. You actually have a story about a sex toy being flushed.
I do. People are flushing dildos and then denying that they're flushing them. Yes, this woman flushed a giant dildo down the toilet, and the plumber pulled it out, and she acted like it wasn't hers.
Well, totally. Yeah, it's not my bag, baby.
Right. People are always. It's funny. People are always in denial when it comes to embarrassing things, personal items that plumbers pull out of their toilets. So. Yeah, sex toys are definitely part of the book on many levels.
So since you started writing the book and since it's been published and since your very first conversation with, I believe the plumber's name was John that you told us about, have you had more interaction with John and talked to him about the book and how it's doing and how he's becoming basically famous because of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so thrilled because all of the plumbers in the book really like the book. They think it's very accurate. They think it turned out really well. John, I've emailed them free copies, and he was very excited about it. I also have people calling, people have been texting me in Chicago saying, oh, I need a plumber. Who do you know? So it's been a way to generate business for them, which is great. One of my female plumbers, Carissa, she's in Canada. We did a CBC radio interview up there, and it blew up in Edmonton, and she's getting all kinds of attention. And women have been writing her saying that she's an inspiration for their daughters. So this is really for them enriching their lives, and they deserve every bit of it. Plumbers are really unsung heroes, and nobody ever thinks about how important they are. And so I hope that they reap benefits from this book.
You say in the press kit that plumbers make decent money?
They do.
As they should.
Yes. A lot of them have second homes, boats. A lot of them also, they didn't do the traditional go to college route, right? They didn't really know what they wanted to do. They were completely lost. One of them, his father died, and he didn't know, he hadn't even gone to college yet. He didn't want to leave his mom alone. So he ended up staying home and trying to figure out a new career without a college education, and he was only 18 years old. and he got into plumbing. And then that guy, Craig, he is now the former president of the Plumbers Contractors Association in Chicago. He had his own business. He has he's retired and living very well. And he built that all up without that traditional college degree route. So it really is a path. And that's one of the other reasons I wrote the book. It's a path that more people should consider. I mean, plumbing isn't only about poop. You don't have to just do poop.
Sure.
There's many different facets of plumbing, with piping, and, it's almost like being an engineer, kind of. One of my plumbers had a great quote. He said, it's like playing with a Tinker toy set every day. I love that quote.
Yeah.
And so I think that especially considering the state of the world, and especially our economy and what's happening right now, when we get out of all this, hopefully plumbing will be something that more people will consider, and trades in general, not just plumbing, trades in general.
Well, that was the thing that I was going to say. You don't necessarily need college to be a plumber. It's more of an apprenticeship sort of a learning thing. I mean, you really got to get in there and get your hands dirty, for lack of a better term.
Right. And some people do go to trade school, which is helpful. There's plumbing school. But, one of the plumbers, Anthony, in the book, he just started working for somebody and shadowing somebody, and now he owns his own business. So, yeah, you don't need that traditional college route.
You talk to a couple of women plumbers in the book. What is it like for ladies working in a pretty much male-dominated arena?
It's tough. They've faced a lot of challenges. A lot of, other contractors who they've had to work with on jobs don't treat them with respect, don't listen to them. One of the contractors was like, you need to use your big boy voice, and he wasn't listening to her at all when she told him to move his truck. It's really hard for them. It's also, in a way, their stories are so, especially Carissa's, are really funny because the customers treat them differently too. Like Carissa was fixing a urinal in a bar's bathroom, and as she's fixing the urinal, this guy comes in and uses the urinal right next to her, even though there was a row of like 10 urinals on the wall.
Okay.
And midstream, he asks her out on a date. So, it's stuff like that the females just encounter a whole different set of problems.
Sure. Yeah, there should be hazard pay in there for them.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is the book available? I know I saw it on Amazon, but there's got to be a website, right?
Yeah, well, Black Rose Writing, they're the publisher, so you could get it through them. I always suggest Amazon. It's also on barnesandnoble.com. It's global, too. It's in the UK. It's in Canada. It's not in actual bookstores yet, but, everyone's home anyway, so it's best to just order it online.
That's what I was going to say, and you can download it too. There's an e version of it, and that's how I got it as well. So, perfect opportunity for folks to get acquainted with the Poop Diaries, written by Abby Ross, and also enlighten yourselves about the plumbing industry while we're all self-quarantined.
That's right. It's a way to get your mind off of things, for sure.
Most definitely. Well, hey, congratulations on all the success of the book. Thanks for writing it. Thanks for giving us something to concentrate on other than what is doom and gloom out there. And you really are a fantastic writer. It was really engaging.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this interview. Thank you.
You're welcome, Abby. Take care, all right?
You too. Stay healthy.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Abby Ross, the author of The Poop Diaries. There's a bunch of stories that we didn't even get to, but just a few of them. There's toothbrushes and driver's licenses and underwear that plumbers find clogging pipes. Also, shower fanatics, drug addicts, bed dwellers, ghosts, and squirrels. Yeah, some of the stories are just as outlandish as those descriptions right there. I highly recommend it. Go out and get yourself a copy of The Poop Diaries, barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. You can download an e-version and, find out something about an industry that you might not know a whole heck of a lot about. My thanks to Abby Ross for writing the book and for joining us today. My thanks also to Christopher Miller, social media and marketing expert at Black Rose Writing. The executive producer of The Fuzzy Mike is Trish Klein, social media director editor Lisa Tynan, production elements Zach Sheesh at the Radio Farm. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for bonus material that you don't just get on the audio podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Klein. See you next time on The Fuzzy Mike.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Fuzzy Mike with Kevin Klein. Check back often and stay fuzzy, friends. Fuzzy Mike is a presentation of the Kevin Klein Fuzzy Mike Industry, Incorporated, LLC.